Are you ready?
Like Arnold S. says, hell yeah. Or he would say it like, hell yeah. How does he sound like? Hell yeah. Yeah, we're ready.
Who the hell is Arnold S?
Arnold Schwarzenegger. We call him Arnold S. That is what we call him.
Who is we?
Me on the Reddit. Reddit.com/r/DP2.
Reddit.com/r/DP2.
DP2, that's where we talk about this stuff. We're way into the Deadly Premonition world.
I don't think that's the right website.
That is the right website. We go balls deep. We have a lot to talk about.
Where do we start with Deadly Premonition 2?
Probably somewhere in Boston or New Orleans, Jesse, because that's the two locations.
I can't believe it's 2 locations. I can't believe it's a second game. I can't believe this is where we're at. Who knew 2020 would lead us to Deadly Premonition 2?
When I think of Deadly Premonition 2, I'm only reminded of when Ashitaka was talking to that big wolf mother in Princess Mononoke. This game is just this poor, ugly, beautiful video game that is just going to die when the forest dies. There's no explanation why this game came out or what's the purpose of this game, and it is still beautifully and wonderfully flawed.
It is the most Deadly Premonition game that ever could exist. It was like they said, what was good about Deadly Premonition and what was bad about Deadly Premonition? Let's amp both those up. Let's just jack them up.
Yeah, they just bumped it up to an 11. Everything that was wrong with the first game is just doubled down on this game. They went to Vegas and said more of that.
It's so bizarre that everything from the first game, from the driving segments, they're like, all right, well, driving, obviously no one wants to do that. So it's skateboarding now.
Yeah, welcome to skateboarding, Tony Hawk. This is what people wanted.
And you can't really unlock skateboarding moves until you do side quests and missions to do so.
Which are garbage. This game is this wonderful sandbox world, but the whole time you're in the sandbox, you're like, I want to be in a water park. Why am I in this sandbox at all?
That is a great way to describe it. Everything about the game is massive and open and this huge town that you can go around in, but there's literally nothing in the town. And then some things are blocked off by times and days. So sometimes you're like, all right, well, I need to go see this person, but they're only going to show up between 4 and 5 on a Wednesday. It's like waiting for the cable guy, and it's not fun in real life, and it's not fun in games.
It's not fun at all. All the things I enjoyed about this game was my experience playing this game with you.
Sure.
All of the things I enjoyed about the game was having someone to go like, look how crazy this shit is, because the game itself is not good.
But at the same time, it is exactly what I wanted from a Deadly Premonition 2. The murder mystery, the weird story, the David Lynchian experience of what is going on, all of it was exactly what I wanted. So it's crazy to be like, look, this game wasn't great, but at the same time when it ended, be like, I got kind of what I expected and I'm pretty happy. It's a weird experience.
It's another example of Deadly Premonition just being in the wrong genre. There's so many ways that this world could be just wonderfully expanded in a comic book or a novel or a movie or a series, but here we have it stuck in video game world and we just have all these weird limitations where it's just like, it is a video game, I guess.
I'm on the same track as you, but the most compelling parts of the game are when you are investigating a scene or you are in the weird hellscape world and you are having a deadly premonition, as York would say, and then you're going through the weird plot and finding the hidden backstory and the weird characters and seeing all the wacky events. The mystery and creepiness and weirdness of the story is what makes it so compelling and why you're willing to suffer all the other garbage of just like, well, you know, in order to move on, you have to go bowl with this old lady. Like, wait, what? I do? And then no matter what you do, she's like, you'd make a fine semi-pro. Got me.
Like the first game, you were always at a juxtaposition. There is the beautiful world of small town life that both games just exudes with fun, whistle music, like that's the world you want to be in. Cut to weird Boston world where we just sit around and ask questions and investigate and it's super slow and nothing ever happens and like, okay.
It is definitely a game that doesn't know what it is, but I think that is exactly what it, yeah. It's hard to describe because you know that it was developed to be this way, I think on purpose, which is badonkers.
Deadly Premonition 2 is like a buddy cop comedy with no jokes, because everything is like these weird setups but no punchline. And we just sort of like get involved in the mystery. And like why some questions were answered, lots of things weren't answered. There's just things we just never have an answer to.
Everything about it is super sweary. Everything down to the way the story is told, to the inside jokes, to the running gags. There are some genius, funny running gags in this game. A great example, going back to the buddy cop comedy, you are Francis York Morgan or Francis Zach Morgan, depending on moments in this game. But when you're back in time, you are Francis York Morgan still talking to Zach in your head because it's in the past. The main story takes place in the past before Deadly Premonition 1. So already, Sweary's like, Deadly Premonition 2 is a prequel, and it's the story that's hinted at the end of Deadly Premonition 1 in some weird way.
It's like George Lucas made A New Hope, and then he's like, great, now we're gonna do Revenge of the Sith. Like, he took such a step backwards. He was like, we didn't necessarily need to know all this yet, but okay.
And so then, the combination of York hanging out with Patricia Woods, they call her CLG, because she's a clever little girl.
Listen, I never got her name right.
CCR?
Is it CCR? Is it PBR? It's either ATM or KFC. She hangs around with you. She looks like a tiny Christina Ricci, and is the only person that knows what's going on in the town.
Yeah, she is an adult in child form, and she seems to know everything in town, but it's this buddy cop comedy of York, this big city detective, coming to this small town where a small child is your partner. And Patricia is this little sweetheart who kind of gets it, but doesn't, right? She's insulated, and she's interested in what's going on in the town, but she truly doesn't understand anything. And the entire time, it's just sweary jokes.
So I just watch a lot of sci-fi.
Like what? What's the last one you saw?
The one with Schwarzenegger, where there's all these clones.
The Sixth Day, 2000, directed by Roger Spottiswoode. You must be very well versed in sci-fi if you can appreciate an Arnold S. film.
They go out on adventures, and when they're on skateboards or walking around or whatever the case may be, the conversations they're having is York dropping all this information about terrible movies, how he loves terrible movies.
He loves cat people. He's way into 80s horror genre films, which everyone else couldn't care about, but he is a connoisseur of it. And his favorite of the actors is A. Schwarzenegger.
I think it was Arnold S. is what he said.
In it? Who is? Wait, no, it can't be.
That's right. Arnold S. is in that movie.
He'd keep telling her about all these movies with Arnold S. And she'd be like, you mean Arnold Schwarzenegger? And he's like, all of his friends call him Arnold S.
I've been to the governor's mansion. I know what he wants to be called, FYI.
It's so ridiculous that he keeps talking about all these things. And it's a through line. And you know that after every major event, they're going to change up the dialogue. So every time we do anything, I would actually wait to hear what the conversation was going to be. Because it was always genuinely funny and just like, oh, York, you idiot.
Violent City, 1970, directed by Sergio Solima. I only ever saw it on TV when I was a kid, so I don't remember it very well. But I definitely remember that it featured a bridge.
He's like, yeah, so there's this good movie about this man who becomes a cat person, and then he ends up in a sexual encounter with another cat person, and you're just like, what the hell? And the dialogue goes on for 15 minutes. It's crazy.
That buddy cop comedy is directly like mirrored, if you will, between the Boston cops of Aaliyah Davis and Simon Jones, who Aaliyah Davis is all business, you know, she's trying to find it. And Simon Jones, who's a Paul Giamatti knockoff, just talks about pizza.
Pizza is not junk. Pizza is a sacred food bestowed upon us by God himself. I wouldn't be caught dead trying to eat frozen pizza. This one's got a lot of pizza in it. Nietzsche is to you what pizza is to me. I'm your invasive partner who has a passionate relationship with pizza. Pizza never betrays you.
Pizza, 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 24 hours a day. That's all you ever talk about.
Most of the game is just about pizza.
Everything from the moment you meet him, he was like eating pizza in a car, to the end of the game. Everything he talks about is related to his love of pizza. And I guess I understand where they were going with the character, but it makes no sense in the context of there is an actual crime happening, and the man they're interviewing is a former FBI agent who may be the culprit it. All right, we need to stop. Okay.
We're getting into characters now. Where do you want to go?
In this one, the framing device is that you start as Aaliyah Davis. And Aaliyah Davis is this young woman who's in the FBI, and her family's from, I think, New Orleans, And she survived Hurricane Katrina, and she's seen some shit, and she's been in it. And she's that hard, grizzled detective. And she has been assigned to figure out what's going on with Patricia Woods. Because in the current game, it's 2019, and she has gone missing. And she was apparently the partner, air quotes, of York back in the day for one crazy case. And they suspect that Francis Zach Morgan has been in contact with her. So Aaliyah's been brought in to question him, while Simon Jones, our Paul Giamatti agent, has been watching him and eating pizza in the car. And this is after the events of Deadly Premonition 1. And at this point in time, Zach, with his white hair and all, is an older man. I'm not sure how old he is because he looks to be Crypt Keeper age.
He looks like he's holding one ring to rule them all, like Gollum. He doesn't look like the stunning, handsome man.
His head grew 5 sizes.
Just like the Grinch. His heart wasn't big enough. Now he saved the Who, so it's much bigger. Also, blaze the weed up 420. He gets high all the time.
The entire time he is high as a kite. And I believe the reason why he's high, the reason they try to explain all of it, is because he has cancer. I couldn't tell if that was supposed to be a reference to the fact that in both games, he smokes like crazy.
Yeah.
I couldn't tell if that's what it was.
Spoilers, cut to the end. He's just having good Skype conversations in 2020. He's just social distancing, living his life, checking in on his friends.
It's crazy. So you as Aaliyah go to him and you interview him with Simon, again, who just talks about pizza and is of zero help and is literally a bad Paul Giamatti character. You ask Zach questions about the past, about Patricia Woods, and you see all of these strange things around the apartment. You can examine them. At first, it's like, oh, this is interesting. What a cool framing device. I think it takes 2 hours to get through the first one of just talking and looking around the apartment.
And most of the stuff around the apartment is all wonderful dialogue and stuff like that, but it's talking about DVDs of movies that don't exist and a weird window and a pipe that goes to nowhere. And it's like all great stuff, but it's not the game. It takes so long to actually get to the game.
So his apartment was dusty, right? And there were weird triangle patterns all over the apartment where there was no dust.
Sacred spots, sacred areas.
And he'd be like, don't put stuff down there. That's special. Don't put stuff there. You're like, okay. There were weird milk carton forts and just like strange things that truly I have no explanation for. I don't know if they were ever explained.
They're not explained. Nothing is explained. Like all of these things, like even when we'll get to the end part of it, the things that are explained have nothing to do with his eccentricities in the apartment. None of that is explained.
And by the way, I think we should set this up. If you've never played Deadly Premonition 1, go watch our review of it, because us saying Francis Zach Morgan and Francis York Morgan is going to get real confusing, but they're the same person. There's multiple personalities, if we can get that out of the way now.
And I'm going to let you know that in these games, multiple personalities is absolutely a trait of these games. Multiple characters have multiple personalities, and in vibe, at different times, it channels some sort of otherworldly being into them. Not to mention just normal, straight up crazy people like David Jawara, who I don't know what's going on there. He's just a Rorschach painting of characters. Who knows what's inside of him?
I feel like he's an entrepreneur in the South trying to make a living, and he's got a lot of jobs to do. I respect that. I'm on YouTube. I'm on Twitch. I do podcasts. I think I'm the David Jawara of the internet, frankly.
But you never change your voice. You're never like, I'm Jesse the podcaster. Then you're like, hey, look at me. I'm Jesse the YouTuber. Like, you don't change your voice and your demeanor when you do those things.
So, yeah, we definitely need to set this up because it's amazing. When you go back to the past, because the whole point is York is going to, Zach, see, it's already confusing.
Already happening.
Zach is going to tell the story to Aaliyah of what happened in the past. Because Aaliyah's like, what took place in this small town outside of New Orleans? And you go back in time and you explain that at this point in time, you were on vacation. It was York on vacation, just looking for small town Louisiana, and he ends up in Le Carré, And he decides to spend it there because he loves small town America. He loves all its eccentricities, and he spends the entire game ignoring all the major problems with this town because he's like, small town America, it's crazy.
What can you do? There might be some sort of weird sex cult in town, but I'm here to enjoy Banana Fosters. That's why we came here.
The opening is amazing because you meet David Jawara, who's the chef. He serves you lobster for your breakfast, I think it's like.
Yes. A third of the game is eating food, looking for food, finding where the food went, and then going back and consuming more of the food.
There's missions where in order to continue the story, you have to go around and collect food for certain characters.
Jesse, there is multiple missions where you have to go look for food for people. You have to do it with David Jawara's wife, who's over Alexis Jawara at the restaurant, and the Reverend guy who makes that weird maraca thing.
Yes, because he does it for the Lord, or whatever that line is. Anyone who was wanting a mystery at this point is like, we are 6 hours into this game and not a mystery is to be seen. It is like a slice of life story as you just kind of walk around the city and learn about people. And you discover that David Jawara, the chef of the hotel you're at, is also David Jawara, the concierge, and they both have different voices.
This summer's gonna be another hot one. It's supposed to get over 95 today.
I just heard from our chef that you wish to learn the meaning behind our town's name.
David Jawara, the bellboy. And then there's a fourth David Jawara who we never meet, which I thought was going to be like, oh, he's definitely the villain. Like, he's the evil mastermind. No, we just never meet that David Jawara unless he was in the game and we completely missed it because I will admit, after a certain point, I was like, I can't be asked with all of these side quests. They are not fun.
Our, deadly premonitions ourselves of, where we thought things were going to go, all of them turned out wrong. We thought Clever Little Girl was going to be a 40-year-old, orphan woman or something like that. That was wrong. The game just sets up these, story ideas that just hit a dead end at a certain point.
And that's a great point that's super crazy about this game. So when the mystery finally does start, the inciting incident is that a girl has been murdered and you have been asked to go check out not only the crime scene, but also where the body's being stored. And the body has been cut up into multiple pieces and the body is stored in a frozen food facility because they don't have a morgue in this town. And so you go there to check out the body's missing. And as you examine and look around and you use your awesome Deadly Premonition powers to examine the crime scene, you discover that whoever took the body must be over 10 feet tall. A giant. And you're like, okay, well, let's go and investigate. So you go and investigate and you discover that in this facility, there is a giant man. And as you talk to him and as you investigate who this guy is, your initial theory is, oh, well, this is a red herring. It can't be this guy. And you leave. And it's never brought up again until the very end when it is. And then it's like, oh, it was that guy the whole time. You're like, well, why did we go? Why did we do this then?
Just things are set up and never brought back to, and things that are blatantly obvious. Obviously it was this person. Nope. We have to wait friggin' 14 years to the future before that pays off. Also, I think something we have failed to mention, which will flavor all of the investigation in the Deep South. Cue the weird laughing man. This game is a voodoo game. Didn't know if everybody knew that. This is a voodoo game. We're in a voodoo world where you look for beads and sort of small trinkets to make voodoo talismans.
I totally forgot that was a plot point to this game. The reason why you accept the murder mystery investigation is because a voodoo spirit asks you to go do it. And you say, okay, why not? Because it should be fun. You're on vacation. And that's how you get caught up in all this. And the voodoo man guides you to locations around the map. And what's crazy is he gives you a riddle. The voodoo man's like, I give you the riddle to solve the crime. And then you go to a map screen, and instead of deducing where these locations are, it almost just gives them to you.
Yes.
And your character's just like, oh, well, that's easy. Then why include that in the game? It's so crazy.
It's completely insane. And when you go to your bedroom, it's a very nice bedroom. You have a great bed, you have a nice little sitting area. Then you just have a voodoo shrine. Everything is there except dead animal flesh. If you just had a bleeding chicken there, it'd be finally complete.
And the voodoo shrine is a way to augment and update and change your character.
Yeah, you gotta get them poison bullets.
Yeah, you can get better bullets, you can get better skateboarding techniques, you can get better stamina, all these different things. But the concept, what is happening in the real world of this game, is that in your hotel room is a voodoo shrine, and then you add voodoo trinkets to it to increase your prowess.
Right.
It's crazy. It's crazy.
You would think like when you incorporate these powers, you would see like voodoo magic. No, nothing happens. Nothing at all. It just is there.
Your bullets just, now you have poison bullets, and the poison bullets can shoot squirrels better. That's right. In this game, you spend most of your time hunting squirrels and wild dogs and alligators and UFOs. You hunt UFOs.
Don't forget bees, Jesse. Don't forget about the bees.
I forgot. The bees suck. You have to hunt bees, and all of those give you items that you then use to make these trinkets. And it sucks. It's not fun to go run around hunting squirrels until you realize you can run up on them and just smash them in the face.
Yeah.
But if you do, you stand a chance of the squirrels just stealing your gear. Which again, why are squirrels stealing your voodoo talismans?
Maybe at one point Avery was a giant to squirrels. Who knows?
And it's not even like you in the wild. You're in someone's front yard bashing squirrels' heads in.
Yeah, you're in the middle of suburbia just taking out everyone like a Captain Commando or something like that. And then everyone's like, thanks.
It's so bizarre. When you go see the Mirror, which is sort of like the voodoo shop owner, who is definitely just like a heavy metal guy who now is trying to sell voodoo trinkets in the South. You go there and he gives you a riddle about this magic bead story that if you find all the beads, and literally they're all associated with side quests. If you do all these side quests, you get these magic beads that make you super powered, but it's just not worth it. There's nothing fun about side quests in this game.
Nothing.
After a while, you're just like, I'd rather just see the story.
Right. Well, if it's time for story time, let's get into the Clarksons.
Oh my God. So the town of Le Carré is pronounced differently by everyone in this game.
Every single person. It's never said the right way.
To Le Carré.
Lucare.
It's always different, and depending on the day they recorded, depends on what reading we get.
So the Clarksons are the family that runs this town. Their symbol is a dragonfly. And I say that because every riddle in this game always comes back to like, oh, you mean their symbol, the dragonfly? That is not even hard to deduce, but like, okay.
Yeah.
The Clarksons are run by the like head big daddy Papa Clarkson, PJ Clarkson, who is the tropiest, like, all right there, son. Now let me see what I can do for you as you come under my town.
They're this weird mixture of like, obviously they've been wealthy for a very long time. They also have like a bumblingness, right? Like they kind of are like, oh, I don't know about that. Like they do weird things.
They're all crazy.
Yes, and they are the Godfather like mafia that runs the seedy side of Le Carré.
And the seedy side is effing seedy. So PJ Clarkson runs this, I think it's sugar? Is that what sugar and seafood? And they control everything. I don't know what the hell they own.
They got an alligator farm. They got some weird plantation. Nothing makes sense. They just make money.
They control the water.
Yeah.
So they control everything in this town. And at the top of this pyramid of Clarksons is PJ Clarkson, who's the big daddy. And then beneath him are his three kids. There's Candy Clarkson, who's this beautiful woman who ends up marrying the sheriff of the town. And we never really see her. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge until the very end. Then there's Galena Clarkson, who is a model slash actress who goes to Florida to become a actress. She goes to the wrong Hollywood and meets a talent agent in Florida.
Right, she messed up big time.
The talent agent marries her, and they both decide to move back to Le Carré. And then there's a mysterious other sibling who we never really see, who's gone missing, who the family was like, we reject you and your ideas, and is gone. And the main story starts because Galena's child has been murdered. Again, another young, beautiful woman murdered, which is kind of like the vibe of all of these games. The idea that like a beautiful woman's murdered and York has to go solve this case. And so you end up digging into the backstory of this family. And what you discover, because of course the Clarksons are messed up and all their little secrets are crazy secrets, is that the mom, Galena, has murdered the daughter in a ritualistic killing, and it's all based around, wait for it, this red dust powder. Crimson Rouge, is that what it's called?
Crimson Climax. Crimson Rouge, which obviously sounds like a Sonic character, but is not. It's the drug that everyone loves.
Is that the actual name of it?
Yeah, I believe it is Crimson Rouge.
Saint Rouge. Or San Rouge, as they say. Literally, it's just crushed up seeds that FK has been spreading, and it's the start of your investigation into what FK is, but this is how it starts. You have, I think in the past, found some of these seeds before. Now it's like the seeds are this drug that's being sold in this town by the Clarkson family, and all of it is related.
It's like this new hot street. It's like the new meth or something like that, and it's popping up because he's finding these seeds, but we already played the first game. We already know what it is, so we're just waiting for them to bring Forrest Kasem in. We know where this leads to. It has to lead to this guy.
There's no mystery of the overall plot. You're very well aware from this moment on that all of these Clarksons are probably caught up in this FK cult on some level. You know that's what it's about. And so as you proceed through the mystery, you discover more about the Clarkson family, and as you do, Clarksons end up dead. Galena Clarkson ends up cut up and ritually murdered in the prison, right? She's in the jail cell and she ends up dead there. You discover that Candy Clarkson is this horrible monster. Like, it only gets worse for the Clarkson family as you go through, again, because they're all related to FK.
Danny Clarkson loses his hand just to prove that he's a good business person, so he loses it to an alligator for some reason.
So after Galena gets arrested, and I think this is after she dies,
yes,
Danny Clarkson, her husband, goes to PJ and is like, I'll do whatever it takes to find the killer, I swear to you, Papa. And he's like, all right, feed your hand to an alligator. Like, wait a minute, what? And so he does, and you think, oh, Clarksons are villains. But then when you meet with PJ, he's kind of just like a backwards racist, and he's not necessarily the villain of the story, he's just like a dick. But when PJ dies, and all the Clarksons are dead, and Danny Clarkson's the only one left of the Clarksons until the big reveal, it's like, wait, so why did Danny give up his arm? That story went nowhere. Again, another plot line that goes nowhere.
There are so many of these plot points of like things that happen in the game that when I was going back and looking at it, I was like, why did we do that? What was the point of any of this stuff? And the point is, that's Deadly Premonition 2.
So while you're trying to solve this case and figure out that FK is obviously FK, because we as players know all this information, which again is why prequels kind of suck, is because, you know, going back to Star Wars, I do not fear for Obi-Wan's life at all.
Right.
Like, I know that he's gonna make it out just fine. Yoda, dude's gonna be okay. I'm like, all right, well, I don't worry about York. York will be fine. You know, they said Patricia was alive and well in the future, so I'm not worried about either of these two characters who are our heroes. And the only really major plot development is related to Patricia, and she's kind of a side character, which is weird. So Patricia, she is the daughter of Melvin Woods, who's the sheriff and I think one of like 3 cops in the entire town.
He's also a small business owner. He has a very nice shop out of a van that he works out, which he put his shop in front of the police department in case he's got to go back and forth.
He sells everything from suntan oil to lollipops to, I think, bullets, you know.
It's basically suntan lotion and cigarettes.
I think it's hilarious this entire game. York is talking about how amazing smoking is, and then flash to Boston and he has cancer.
Or if the supernatural events of the end of the game somehow remove the cancer from his body, because at the end of the game he looks great. He's having coffee, he's sitting at the kitchen table, he's giving winks and thumbs up. He looks great.
Yeah, it's like the end of the last Nolan Batman movie.
Right.
You're just like, wait a minute. So one of the crazy things about the Melvin CLG York relationship is that the game tries to use it as a like, well, Melvin's the small town sheriff and he sees everything as big city Hollywood stuff. So every time he does anything, he's like, in a land where a man named Melvin was actually into movies, his daughter CLG met with a guy named York in a movie called Deadly Premonition, like that kind of stuff. He makes everything into movie trailers. It's weird, but like, okay, it's quaint. York is like small town America. And at a certain point, you think, well, all right, well, this is, you know, just silly. Until Melvin starts being very, I'm gonna say like transphobic and homophobic and racist and shit. Combo breaker! York is like, bro, not effing cool.
To the point that the game was patched halfway through our play to remove how bigoted he was.
This is that time of the stream where I have to explain to people why I have Peach Beach Splash on my... Look, I did a brand deal with Senran Kagura because I love Senran Kagura games, and Peach Ball is one of the games. It's pinball, but with boobs. What's the problem?
Guys, it's a wholesome thing. He's a wholesome creator, okay? Pinball is family fun for all ages.
Yeah, and when you get a certain high score, they orgasm. What's the problem?
It's very problematic, the things we run into in Le Carré.
And it's good that York is also just like, dude, not cool. But he also does it in a condescending way where he's like, I have to teach these small town people how to like correct themselves, which is also like, wait, I don't know that's how you go about doing that, York.
Right, why is the cigarette-smoking weed head now the bastion of morality when he murders people all the time? He's taking his gun, he's killing animals.
What ends up happening is through the course of this story, we end up in a plot line that, at least on the internet, the trans community was like very upset over when it's revealed that the third child, Lena Clarkson, was Leonard Clarkson? See, this is even difficult to talk about because I'm not sure exactly what is appropriate to say.
Let's just refer to the character by the plot point that is most of the game, Professor R.
She is responsible for the murders of everything that's happening. She is clearly in league with FK in some way. It's the sibling who left town, which again is a weird moral. Like, you left your small town and the first thing you did was meet the drug demon.
Sure.
Who is like implanting trees in people's stomachs. Crazy. Comes back to town and creates this cult in an effort to bring down the Clarkson family as like an FU to dad, to PJ, and bring down the Clarkson family. I assume take it over and make the money, but really, that's also not what's happening.
Also, which makes this even more complicated and weird, Professor R had an incestual relationship with her blood sister, and we find out that clever little girl is the byproduct of that mating.
And again, this goes back to why the internet had a lot of issues with this game, especially the trans community on the internet. It was like, all right, so she is Professor R, she's Lena, but also the plot relies on the fact that Leonard had an incestuous... It's just one of those things where I feel like maybe you shouldn't have done this as a plot, Swery. Especially when a game like JJ Macfield exists, when it's a very like interesting take on the idea of identity. This game is just like, well, we're gonna make it really confusing and muddled and make it like, it's a lot. It's certainly a lot.
There is a trope in Hollywood of cross-dressing murderers going insane, and it is a very old stereotype, and here is another game that is sort of perpetuating that, where the trans community, and rightfully so, would like another story told about them.
That isn't like, and that's the killer. You're like,
right.
Because that's also a Deadly Premonition 1 thing.
Yes.
The brother in Deadly Premonition 1 shows up in a dress at the end, and you're like, wait a minute, why?
Whoever is teaching this writer's weekend that Swery and J.K. Rowling went to, knock it the fuck off, okay? Like, let's just find another trope to write scripts about. It's 2020. There's more things to write about, people.
And of course, if you didn't pick up on this, you probably will now. Patricia Woods, aka CLG. CLG, Candy, Lena, Galena.
Oh, I didn't even pick that up, Jesse! That's crazy!
Did you not realize that?
No, of course I never picked that up! It's just like FK in the coffee. Here's everything you need to know. Now just go play in this weird world.
The big reveal, of course, is that Patricia is the incestuous offspring of the Clarkson family, and that Melvin is sort of the stepdad of this child. But all this is told as we flash back and forth between Boston and Le Carré. And in Boston, Aaliyah is still trying to get to the bottom of this case, and you discover, little tidbits about what happened in the first game, and you discover about FK, and you learn more about what's going on with Zach and why he's such a weirdo, and you still have to deal with Simon and his annoying pizza ramblings, and clearly there's something hidden in the apartment. The twist is like there's something in the apartment.
Get the fuck out of my room and play Minecraft!
It's the one room we haven't gone into, FYI. It's a one-room apartment, so it's not in the living room. It's clearly in the bedroom.
And as York gets up to go leave, of course, like, oh my God, what's gonna happen? We end up just going back to Le Carré, and we have the end of the main story, ? There's multiple endings in this game. So the main story, it's revealed that Candy, ironically, she has been force-fed by Melvin. There's this plot point through the entire game that there's this barge slowly like drooping into the water of the Mississippi River. That's my favorite character in the game. The guy who runs, I think, like the shrimp farm or like whatever farm he's running.
The Crawdaddy farm.
Oh my God, I love that character. character.
Yeah.
Whoever's playing him, whoever designed that character is a genius. He discovers that there's this barge floating up and down the river, and you even see it earlier in the game. You see like a skull in the river.
Yeah.
You know that the river's the key, but you as a player never get to really investigate because the game is like, now go pick up a bunch of food for people.
Right.
The big reveal about this entire effing game is that Professor R wasn't the villain, was trying to stop everything and like set things right and give Patricia control of the Clarkson family because Melvin was working with Candy to create like an FC god monster because, oh my god, we haven't even addressed the fact that there are the Deadly Premonition levels.
Jesse, we didn't even talk about the finger-banging ghosts or the crab-locked doors or the succubus womans that just want you so badly. All of these revelations that come to us when we psychically go inside of the underworld and investigate and find the real truth, the evilness that is holding all this together.
The evilness is represented by different demon creatures. I think they're all supposed to represent the Clarkson family, but they do it in ways that I'm not comfortable with.
The entities are known as pains in the game.
And these pains are Capitanos and all sorts of different crazy names, and they're dressed up as Mardi Gras figures. And they make weird noises, and every weird noise they make, it's just gibberish. They make crazy noises, but each of them in their representation of these kids is like the one that represents Lena keeps running after you being like, let me snip it. And you're like, what?
Yeah, trying to cut it off, which is very problematic in hindsight.
You end up tracking down this barge with Candy on it, with Melvin, who is now like a high priest. I don't even know what the plan was. Something about FK and the seeds and bringing about the goddess.
The goddess of fertility embodied abundance on the outside. But on the inside, she was a hollow void. And that void was threatening to swallow up all of Carré.
Who cares or knows? All you know is you go there with CLG and you burn the damn place down. And there's a sad scene where Melvin, I guess, realizes his mistake. And you're like, wait, what? So now you're like a redeemable character? No, dude, you're terrible. You're part of a cult that literally cuts people up.
And it speaks again to the Deadly Premonition world. There's all these breadcrumbs of all these crimes and things like that. None of that matters.
The initial crime is the missing body of the young daughter who's been cut up and it's gone missing from the storage facility. And then in the future in Boston, it reappears and CLG goes missing. Patricia goes missing. And so it's like, wait, so that's the main crime. We never find the body in the flashback story.
We're too busy getting free Uber rides from Raven Yahoo and trying to get a better skateboard from Emma Sanders. Yeah, the things you do are ridiculous.
By the way, just a heads up, poor Mrs. Jawara.
Oh.
Because definitely David is cheating with Raven Yahoo, but only one of his personalities is cheating with Raven Yahoo. So I don't know, does that count as cheating?
I don't know. I don't think it counts as cheating. If you're not cognizant, it's not cheating.
But he is. One of them is. You know what? There's too many questions in this game.
It's very problematic.
So Patricia's parents are dead.
She takes over the Clarkson empire. She's now the person in charge.
And so I guess you save the day. Everything's fine. The Saint Rouge is destroyed. And you get these story bits of Professor R, who's just like, yeah, you know, my plan was to end the whole thing. And I saw the folly of my ways and I wanted Patricia to run stuff. And you're like, wait, what? That's what the plot was? You flash back to Boston.
I was going to say, that is plot point A, because that is not the end of the game. Now we have to move back forward to 2019 Boston, where the shit has now hit the fan, and York, or I guess Zach at this point, because it's after the events of the first game, Zach, because of the pinky promise he made to clever little girl, he has to then go back and save her.
Which, by the way, the thing in his bedroom is recreations of all the crime scenes and like weird ass shit. Like his bed has a cut up body. He's got animal faces on the walls that have things that look like the characters from the previous. It's crazy. When you go in there, you're like, oh no, Zach is a crazy person now. Until a fairy shows up.
The Naomi Watts fairy from the first game, the thing that has haunted him, shows up and we, the players, see the fairy. The fairy is real.
Yeah.
We actually see the fairy.
Fairy's totally real. And he's like, all right, I need to go back to Carré, and I need you to come with me, everyone. We're going to go solve this case and figure out what happened to CLG. And of course, the first person you go to think to look for is
Avery Smith,
who is this big giant man who was kind of like the Mice and Men dude from the very beginning of the game, who was like, I didn't steal the body, but I loved Lise. And so you go back there, and of course you discover that, yeah, this dude took the body, and he is definitely a guy that you end up having to fight, and he becomes like a big giant, and there's like a whole battle that happens, I guess, with the Deadly Premonition. And in the end, it's revealed that FK is inside of York. FK is like part of York.
A little bit like a Harry Potter Horcrux. There's that J.K. Rowling influence over that fucking writers weekend they have. A part of FK has attached himself and is now metastasized because Zach turns into a monster, turns into a big tree monster.
And then Aaliyah shoots you from behind and is like, stop it right there, mister. And you then realize that she is also now being controlled by FK. And so then you, as York, Zach, whoever you are, have to fight her and save CLG from her, but without killing Aaliyah, because you now see that Aaliyah is like the future of what you do. Like, she has the Deadly Premonition, and you've got to save her from FK.
Her Deadly Premonition isn't the same as our Deadly Premonition. She has like the offshoot power. It's like the Schwartz in Spaceballs. It's not as good, but it's still good. It's there.
It's just like Doom's. It's just like the idea that some people have it better than others. And so you end up saving Aaliyah, and in return, Zach like, oh, you shot me, I'm gonna die. And you think, okay, well, this is how it ends. Like, clearly, Zach is hurt. This is it for him. He defeated FK finally. Aaliyah's there to take over. Patty grabs him and is like, oh, Mr. York, I love you. I'm so sorry. And she makes a deal with York to prolong Zach's life.
You interpret that with whatever it means, because it works. Did he take the cancer out? Where's the cancer in all of this?
I thought the cancer was supposed to be FK.
I thought the cancer was the tree, because that's why we have the finger gun that looks like a tree.
Oh, you're right. His weapon was the tree. Maybe? I don't, but the tree represents FK.
Correct. Right.
It doesn't matter. Needless to say, there's like a flash, and it's like, well, did it work? What happens? Who knows? And the post-credit scene is Patricia video calling and talking with Zach on the internet, and Zach and York are communicating via text, which is, again, weird because, wait, they're two people now? Or maybe it's like when you text yourself.
Whatever, yeah, whatever, maybe. I never text back to myself, though.
I want to postulate that the post-credits takes place in 2020, where Patty and Zach have to talk over a video.
Because of COVID?
Yeah.
Sweary, you're doing real good, yeah.
That's how it ends. That's the ending of the game. It is badonkers. This game is crazy. We skimmed the surface of how crazy this game is.
And there's so many things in this game that, like, I wish we would have more thoughts on, but, like, the dungeons aren't anything special. You go to this weird red world and you fight these creatures and stuff like that, but it's point A to point B.
Even the boss fights in the dungeons, the first level of a boss fight is there's a tree with a seed, and these little guys come at you, and at first, in the very first time we did it, I was like, what do I do? But after the first time I realized all I have to do is shoot the seed boss, ignore all the other enemies, it switches phases. And then the next phase is a boss, and every single one of the bosses, depending on which sibling of the Clarkson family it was, had like maneuvers, but all you had to do was outrun them every time. And then you just shoot them a bunch, and you power up your Mega Man blaster, you shoot them, and that's it. There's no challenge to the boss fights, and so why include them?
There's no challenge to the boss fights, and even the game, it gives you like your Deadly Premonition vision. You can use these red eyes, but even that doesn't do anything. Like, most of the time, it's always the other option in the room that you choose. You never find any secrets with it.
The only time I found a secret was in the storage facility in the freezer, and that's where we discovered the secret that, oh, the thing that took the body is bigger than 10 feet, and it simply cannot be Avery, because Avery, while tall, is not 10 feet tall, and that's why we ignored him the entire game. But then in the end, it was Avery anyway.
Right, so then what was the point of that? And I feel like what was the point of that comes up all the time in what I want to say. There's mini games that are part of the game. You gotta go bowling and skipping rocks, and you skateboard, and there's a Bayou River ride. And like, yeah, but they don't add anything to the game. There are all these things, but it's not like a selling point to the video game. It's not like, oh, that really fun part. It's just shit you do.
At the end of the day, this game would best be served not having any of that in it and just having kind of a Life is Strange murder mystery tale. Why can't we do that, Swery? You're good at the crazy ass murder mystery thing. Let me do that.
I want this to be like one of the Telltale games or something like that. Like just another format, because like there are so many great gems in this game that I want people to experience, but there's all this weird shit as well. There's all this weird fluff and stuff like that. It's a super flushed out world that's not flushed out enough. It's this huge world where nothing is going on.
It is the exact thing people complain about when they talk about open worlds. But like, you made an open world game with nothing to do in your open world. It clearly is not a complete game.
Who is the audience for this game? Who were the people that were clamoring for more Deadly Premonition?
I mean, obviously us. Let's not pretend. We were in from day one.
I was super excited for it, but that's because I played the first game. As a standalone game, right? Sometimes sequels get people to come back into the world. Like, oh, if you never played Uncharted 2, what's Uncharted 1, right? Like, it makes you go back. This doesn't make people want to play Deadly Premonition 1. And
no, not at all.
Deadly Premonition 1, as fucking awful and crazy as that game, it's the better game.
It's a better game.
Game. I can't believe I'm saying that.
I simply cannot figure this game out. I can't do it, and maybe that's the intention. Because when people ask Swery about all the weird things in it and all the bugs and stuff, he's like, no, that's what I wanted. Because Swery is such an enigmatic mystery, is that what he wanted? Or is that just someone covering up the obvious flaws with the game? I don't know if the lag was on purpose or not, and it blows my mind because I almost want to give him credit for that.
There's lots of things that we dislike about this game, but like, there's also a long list of things I like. Another game with an amazing banger of a soundtrack.
Oh my God, the opening number is so good.
Never a choice when somebody needs you, you can't turn away.
Opening number is great. The skateboard song is great. When the whistle song comes back, even some new hot jams. Raven Yahoo's like techno music. It's fun.
The line reads are hilarious sometimes. Yeah, they're so good.
All pigs must die in the city of wolves. Yeah! Now does that sound badass or what? I bet you'd... Hey!
Hilarious, but like it still just falls flat in this weird Deadly Premonition world of a video game.
But this could be like one of those things where now parents have to show their kids episodes 1, 2, and 3 before they show them the old movies, because maybe you have to play 2 first, but then why would you play 2 and then go into 1? Because you will not be excited for 1 playing 2. Maybe I'm giving them too much credit.
Maybe you are.
Being like, they planned out how weird this could be, but at the same time, maybe. Maybe.
I'm not intelligent enough to know how video games are made. Feels like multiple teams worked on this game. They then all turned in their projects and then nobody bug tested or checked anything. They're like, great, the game's done.
I think one dude worked at this game. I can't believe you think multiple teams are involved.
It blows my mind that this was on the Switch. It blows my mind that Nintendo wanted to release this game, that they were like, oh, this is exactly what Switch users want. I'm loving Raised by Wolves, but like, it's a weird show to tell someone to get into. You either like it or you don't. I think Deadly Premonition is the same way. If you like good, bad video games, this is the game for you. But for the vast majority of people, I don't think this is for you.
Yeah, well, thankfully, you have us to tell you all about it.
Oh boy.
All right, look. I don't know that I can recommend this game to you. It's fun. It's silly. It's weird. Is it good?
Oh, it's fun. It's silly. You shoot squirrels, you eat banana fosters, you get to go bowling and skip rocks. It's a wonderful adventure.
Yeah, if you like bowling with old ladies, this game is for you.
If you want to see the best season that never existed of True Detective, play this game.
If you like Eddie Murphy and all those movies where Eddie Murphy plays every character, this game is for you.
If you want to go and crawl around industrial freezers, this game is for you.
If you want to question why you're watching a 45-minute cutscene, play this game.
And if you don't want to play this game, then play the first Deadly Premonition, because that was pretty good.
Yeah,
this was pretty good.
Yeah, and then you'll say, I gotta play the next one.
And then we're gonna tell you don't do it, but you should do it. But you should do it, but you don't have to do it if you don't want to. It's up to you. It's up to you. Make your own choices. There's nothing in here still.